I had just had my first child, and you know, all you're prepared for is, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. You don't think ahead that the moment that that child's born, you have an Achilles heel bigger than the universe, and I wrote it almost to purge that. The excitement I got out of certain kinds of film grammar or cinema as an audience, that was my main drive. I wanted to do that. I wanted to make those things, and then so it was just a matter of getting to a point of some access, because I had a relatively successful acting career at a young age, and then experience being around sets. And then Warren Beatty said to me, you know, about directing. He said, you know, if you wait till you're ready, you'll never do it. And so then I started writing the first movie, The Indian Runner. Often there were movies that I did even after I'd started directing, mostly because I wanted to audit the director of that movie. Terry Malick certainly was one of those people. You know, there's the directors who were essential because I had watched their films, the Bob Fosse's and Altman, and you know, you always try to list all these, Hal Ashby, but then there were the ones that I got an opportunity to work with, and that was, you know, it was great to kind of pick up pieces of process.
I'm John.
I know, I'm JoJo.
You know about me.
Peter told me.
If I get a vibe about somebody, I won't have them audition. I'll just talk to them and see, and then you can, if it's a part that's going to carry a lot of the movie, you usually get a sense that if somebody can't do it, they're going to tell you that, because they don't want to go out there and fall on their face. And that's typically been true, and sort of the first opportunity to show faith in somebody.
How'd you get that scar on your head?
Banged my head against the wall.
In jail? You just couldn't stand jail?
No, I just couldn't stand me.
I typically write with actors in mind, and I wrote this for David Morse originally. I had not, even though I'd made some films and I had a great friendship with Jack Nicholson, I had still not gotten to a point where I could imagine asking Jack Nicholson to, it just didn't occur to me that that could be possible. There was another actor who I have great respect for, and who I had written that part for, who was going through a difficult time, and his difficult time was becoming our difficult time. And I had to have a conversation with him. I just knew this was not a way to make a movie. The financing of the film at that point was really on his back, because David's career wasn't at that place. And I was already committed that I wanted David in that part. So I was suddenly had to scramble to keep our financing together and get somebody. And I'd been spending some time socially with Jack, and so I just thought, well, fuck it, you know, I'll send it to him. And the next day he called me and said, Shawnee, they're not going to give you any money for this, so I'll just do it for whatever, and just came like an angel on my shoulder.
You've never even been to the cemetery, Freddie. You've never even been to Emily's grave.
Why? Because I didn't go to your little party? Your funeral? I went on my own time, Mary. In private.
Really?
Yes.
What's the inscription on the stone, Freddie? What color is it?
You're doing chemistry in your head all the time. With Angelica, it was, who can Jack absolutely not get away with a lie with? And because of their particular history, I thought, oh, here's a good idea. Because Jack Nicholson is going to be, unless he works hard not to be, he's going to be a dynamic figure. Whether he's liked as a character or as a character who's less sympathetic, he's going to be a dynamic figure. Who's going to fill that place for this woman who was married to him? And so you need to find somebody who has their own kind of gravitas. In the case of Robbie Robertson, a very quiet kind of gravitas. And it's not the same fireworks, but certainly you've got a formidable person there. So you buy that. And it was those kinds of thoughts.
You had to do it, huh? Nobody's talking to you!
You want me to call the police?
Call whoever the fuck you want!
Where do you get off calling them your children? You haven't been a father to those kids. You stopped with our daughter.
The scene at Mary's house with Robbie Robertson and Jack, I just could not figure it out. I knew I trusted my writing. All the actors were doing a good job in the rehearsal, but I could not find my way into how to put it all together. And I just said to the actors, I said, listen, I'm gonna step outside. Will you guys put something together for me? And I'll just get the whole crew out of here. And the actors kind of worked it out together. And I came in and I go, oh, okay. And then that's what we shot. It was, so they staged it. Yes, that was the one I couldn't find myself very helpful with.
Freddie, why don't you let me go? I'll make us some coffee. Come on.
Sometimes I'll close my eyes after I've finished a scene, and I'll see the next shot, and that tells me what the next scene is and where I am. Somewhere I didn't even plan to go. There was something in Penny Allen. In her case, it was sort of like in the graph of the film, I wanted him in the presence of something more fragile than he was, because obviously that character's in an incredibly fragile state the whole time. She was sort of an extraordinary actress, but also, you know, I just knew this was going to keep me. I'm the audience of the movie that I'm writing, and I'm not going for popcorn now.
I ride the bus all day long. I have a disability card, so I don't have to pay.
This was built into Penny. She had an experience as a young woman that left her emotionally incapable of speaking for years. And when she found her voice again, it was a very beautifully unusual voice. And so, and then was such an accomplished actress by the time I knew her, and acting teacher, that I didn't have anything to do with it. I wrote the scene, and she played it. I don't remember directing her at all. When I write something I'm directing, I pretty much have the lenses in my head to begin with. So I was thrilled when Vilmos came on. I also knew that he and Jack had history, good history. Vilmos had been and remains one of the cinematographers who excited me most about films. When somebody is consistently, because sometimes it's a director, but when consistently you've seen films with a certain cinematographer, and not at magic hour, and not indoors with nice light shafts and shadows, but out in flat light, those scenes look great too. And like rich and textured. And since something else is going on with this guy that's not going on with most of them. And then we got to working, and it was tough. It was tough because Vilmos, he had strong opinions. And I loved him. We got along, but we got along in a very, snippy way. We would snip, but at the end of the day, it was always good. And it was also, part of it, to be fair, was that I had written it to shoot it with a camera on my shoulder in 16mm black and white. And that's what the original concept was. And frankly, it was when I felt that would feel like a conceit if Jack Nicholson's in the middle of the frame. It felt like, okay, you're not going to make a little verite art piece thing. You've got to make a movie. And that's when I went out to Vilmos on it. And, I'm thrilled to have had a chance to have worked with him. We were snippy, but I think we made a good movie together. It was influenced by Killing of the Chinese Bookie. The environment of that movie had really excited me. And I remembered that John Cassavetes, he talked about, of all his films, that's the one he wanted to remake. I felt easier in borrowing from it in the ways that it influenced this, because the guy who, you know, inspired me to that aspect of the film said that that's not a complete thing yet. There's still room to play. It's the place where lonely people go to be lonely together. I remember Michael Haller, who was the production designer and had been the production designer on The Indian Runner, and was, bar none, one of the most talented filmmakers that I've ever known. And he had been Hal Ashby's production designer on almost everything. Because he wouldn't just go and look at what color walls were or the architecture of the place. He would go and he would try to understand the rhythm of the place, and so he would visit these places with us. And his frame of reference would be, you know, so many of the people who were sort of regulars in these places, the stripper is like the television that's on without volume. You can't not look at it, but you're not really with it. You're just numbing yourself from what's outside. So it's just a collection of broken men who fucked up their lives in one way or another, and so they're going to I Fucked Up My Life club to feel less alone in their loneliness, I guess. A lot of times when I'm writing, I giggle a lot. And with Kari, what I didn't know when I cast her was that she was also pursuing a singing career. And she came and played me a song.
Surrounding you, you're the one that holds the key.
I said, okay. And that was a rewritten scene. That was like, you got to go write a song, but it can't be a good song like that one. It's got to be, it's got to be, you know what it's got to be. And then she wrote that song, and she came and did it. They were all great assist plays for the Freddie character.
Freddie and me are
You have any other weapons on you? No. Spread your feet for me.
When Jack takes off from the police, if Jack was sitting here right now, he would probably say that was the hardest one, because he was sprinting a long way. And I asked him to do that run, and I was surprised at take one, because I don't think I'd ever seen him run. And it wasn't as though Jack was on a treadmill often, and he played golf, and he skied. But I didn't know he could run like that.
Just turn around, put your hands behind your back. Freeze! Stop!
So I said, oh, great, let's do it again. And then we did it about 4 times. Great, we got that. He was all the way over there. And I said, okay, look, we're going to set here now. We're going to do this. And Jack, meanwhile, has gone off to his trailer. And then an assistant comes to me and says, they're putting oxygen on him. Like, I thought, oh, my God, I've killed Jack Nicholson. I went back there. He was, I'm imagining myself right now just doing that run 4 times. I'd be on my back, too. But he gave it everything.
I want this ring in a size 7, don't you understand?
Well, I have always had final cut on my movies. But this is a movie with Miramax. And what your contract says didn't always get through over there. And I remember that they were constantly on Jay and I about, various things, but there was one scene in particular that Harvey Weinstein was determined be cut. And that was the scene with John Booth and Robin Wright's character dancing. We still had a lot of work to do on the edit. At some point I said, Harvey, look, you have copies of all the footage. That's, if you want to show me an alternate version of something, I'm happy to look at it, but I got to keep working. I remember they got this editor who did action movies to work with Harvey in New York, and Jay and I flew to New York to see this cut that they were doing. the editor looks at us and he says, you know, it's terrific. He says, it just needed editing. And I remember, and I just could imagine Jay, who was standing right here at the time, just like, all right, let's see what you got. And it was shit. It was such shit. And so we just said, nice try, guys. No. And it was a wasted trip, but it was kind of political, because there was so much tension going on. When I wasn't going to cut that scene, Harvey screamed. He called me up, and I remember him saying, if you don't cut that fucking scene, I'll release it in one fucking theater. I hung up, and I went to my production office, editing suites in West LA, and I told everybody, I said, if anyone from Miramax calls, and as soon as they identify as from Miramax, I don't care if it's this one or Harvey himself, and you speak a word before you hang up that phone, you're fired. And we held out for 3 months that way, and we just kept editing. And finally, this guy calls, and I said to this junior executive, oh, I'm glad you called. I said, somebody's doing a La Scala run, and I got the orders from the secretaries, everybody, and I told this junior executive at Miramax, I said, I'm sure the reason you called is to deliver our lunch, so we need 6 chopped salads and a couple of mozzarella marinara. I said, okay, so a little spaghetti. And I gave him the list. I said, I'll talk to you if you bring all that stuff here. And so he did. And he said, and then, you know, he was coming with an olive branch. You know, basically Harvey knew he couldn't bully us.
Does that look like a 6 fucking and a half to you? You were right. You're a perfect 7. Perfect fucking 7.
I don't know if I've collected a lot of the memory of disappointments. I don't really recall. I don't know if I paid any attention to that. I think it mattered to me. I got to make a movie, you know. I remember Hal Ashby telling me once, he says, you know, at the end of the day, they have their money, we have our movies. So I was just glad that we got to finish it the way we wanted to. I think that the emotional territory of it, and I don't mean necessarily at the extreme of losing a child, but relationships and such. I think there's a lot of nuance in it that isn't common in film, certainly not in American film. And I was very proud of it.